Married to the most dangerous millionaire, she didn't know his obsession was her only protection. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us return to our main character. Rain hammered the narrow alley just as Elara sensed the footsteps closing in behind her. They were slow at first, deliberate, echoing through the wet concrete like a countdown. She sped up. The footsteps followed faster, heavier. The cold on her skin wasn't from the rain anymore. Something darker crept beneath it, coiling along her spine. She didn't know how long she had been running, only that every turn she took felt expected, like someone had predicted this exact route, this exact moment. A car engine growled. Headlights flared across the alley, stretching her shadow long against the bricks. The passenger door swung open, but before she could react, a tall figure stepped out. Broad shoulders, black coat soaked through eyes, cutting through the storm with unsettling precision. Elara. He said her name like he'd whispered it in his sleep 1,000 times. She froze. Rain slipped down her face, but her mind was too loud for her to feel the cold. She didn't know this man. She didn't know how he knew her. But he walked toward her, slowly, controlled, as if her panic had been measured, anticipated even, familiar. "If you stay here another 10 seconds, he said, offering his hand, "they'll catch you." His tone was calm. Too calm. Not the tone of someone guessing. The tone of someone certain. Lightning cracked. The footsteps behind her grew louder. She ran not away from him, but toward him. In that moment she didn't know the truth. He hadn't saved her by coincidence. He'd been waiting for this exact night. He'd been waiting for her. Elara barely felt his grip as he pulled her into the back seat. The door slammed, muffling the storm, muffling her heartbeat, muffling everything except the low hum of the engine as the car shot forward like it already knew where to go. "Who are you?" she demanded, breathless. The man slid into the driver's seat, rain dripping down the sharp line of his jaw. His eyes met hers in the rearview mirror, steady, restrained, holding something she couldn't name. "Someone who isn't going to let you die tonight," he said. "That's not an answer." Her voice shook, not from fear, but from the unnerving familiarity of him. She didn't know him. She shouldn't know him. So why did he feel like an unfinished sentence in her memory? He didn't respond. The city lights streaked by the windows, a blur of colors smeared by the rain. The silence grew thick, too heavy to sit still. Finally, she said, "You knew my name." His fingers tightened around the steering wheel, just enough for the leather to creak. "Yes." "How?" he exhaled once quietly, as though steadying himself. "Because I've been aware of you for a long time." Aware. Not watching. Not following. Aware. A careful word. Practiced. She leaned back, pulse trembling in her throat. The air in the car felt weighted, as if every breath she took was recorded, analyzed. The way he drove, precise, calculated, felt wrong. Not wrong like danger, wrong like he wasn't reacting to traffic. He was anticipating it long before it happened, like he had mapped this drive, like he had mapped her. Elara pressed closer to the door, gripping the handle. "Stop the car. You're not safe out there. You don't sound like you're here to help." He looked at her again through the mirror. This time there was no mask, only something raw, conflicted, and disturbingly intimate, as if her fear hurt him physically. "Elara," he said softly, "you are safe with me." She shook her head. "I don't know you." "That's not entirely true." Her breath faltered. Those words sank under her skin. What does that mean? But he didn't answer. Instead, the car turned into an underground garage she didn't recognize. Private, isolated, silent. Too silent. He stepped out, came around to open her door. Movement smooth and rehearsed. She didn't want to follow him. She also knew that staying in the car wouldn't give her any answers. "This way," he said. She hesitated, then stepped out. Water pooled around her shoes, the cold concrete humming faintly beneath them. "What's your name?" she asked. He paused, just a fraction of a second too long. "Callan." Callan. The name slid into her mind strangely, like a puzzle piece she didn't know she'd been missing. He guided her toward the elevator. She kept her distance, but his presence pressed against her anyway, like gravity, like a pull she couldn't explain. When the elevator doors closed, a soft chime sounded. A screen lit up on the panel. Access granted, subject E17 detected. Elara blinked. What was that? Callan moved his hand to the panel so fast she barely saw it. The screen flickered, then went dark. Nothing, he said. Liar, her instincts whispered. The elevator ascended. Her heartbeat kept pace, rising, panicked. Callan leaned back slightly, watching her, not with suspicion, not with desire, but with a strange aching familiarity, like someone who had memorized all her versions and was finally seeing the one he'd been waiting for. This place, she said quietly, where are you taking me? He stepped closer, not touching her, but close enough for her to feel the heat around him. To safety. I don't feel safe. His jaw tightened. For the first time, a crack appeared in the calm. You will, he said, then softer, too soft. You always did. The doors opened. Warm light washed over them, revealing a place far too perfectly prepared for her arrival. Elara stepped forward, her pulse stuttering. She didn't know yet that every object in that room was placed according to her reactions. She didn't know yet that every step she took had been predicted. She didn't know yet that this wasn't a rescue. This was the beginning of Phase 4. And Callan, steady, silent, watching her with something deeper than obsession, whispered under his breath, "Welcome home." The moment Elara stepped into the penthouse, the lights rose in a slow, deliberate glow, illuminating a space so impossibly pristine it felt staged. The air was warm, scented faintly with something familiar, vanilla and cedar notes she hadn't smelled in years. The room didn't feel lived in, it felt prepared. Callan walked slightly ahead of her, never rushing, never glancing back to check if she followed, as if he already knew she would. Her shoes clicked softly across the marble floor. Even the acoustics felt tailored. Where are we? She asked, voice thin. Safe, he said, removing his wet coat with one fluid movement. Droplets hit the floor like precise punctuation marks. That's not a location. He finally looked at her eyes, cool and steady. It's the only one that matters right now. A shiver ran through her, not from cold, but from the way he said it with certainty that had no room for argument. Elara let her gaze drift. The living room was breathtaking in a sterile museum-like way. White marble steel accents, nothing out of place. No family photos, no clutter, no sign of a life lived here at all. It felt less like a home and more like a perfectly controlled environment. Her attention snagged on details. The furniture height was slightly elevated, like everything had been positioned a few inches higher than expected. The lighting dimmed and brightened in tandem with her breathing. The temperature shifted warmer as she hugged her arms. It watched her. It accommodated her. It responded to her. Her pulse kicked. "Let me get you something dry," Callan said, already moving down the hall. "You're freezing. How do you know that?" He paused mid-step. A fraction, barely perceptible. But she saw it. "You're shivering," he said simply. Before she could respond, the penthouse screen on the wall flickered to life. Words flashed in bright white for less than a second. Subject E17 home mode activated. Elara blinked. The screen went dark again. "Was that glitch?" Callan said, not even looking at it. "Ignore it." She frowned. "E17, what does that mean?" "Nothing you need to worry about tonight." The way he said tonight made her throat tighten. Callan disappeared into a room and returned with a soft gray shirt and sweatpants her exact size. "How do you know what fits me?" she asked. Again, that infinitesimal pause. This time, he busied himself with folding the clothes. "I guessed," he said. No one guessed sizes perfectly. He held the clothes out. "Bathrooms down the hall." Elara hesitated. He wasn't touching her, wasn't yelling, wasn't threatening. And yet, the unease inside her kept expanding, like something inside her brain was trying to match pieces that didn't fit. She took the clothes and walked toward the hall. The bathroom door slid open automatically as she approached. Too automatically. Inside, the mirror lit up the moment she faced it. Her reflection blurred for a second, then sharpened. A soft line of data flickered at the bottom left colors. Graphs, percentages gone before she could process it. She leaned closer. The mirror seemed to hum. "Everything okay?" Callan's voice floated through the door, calm, but weighted with an undertone she couldn't define. She stiffened. I'm fine. She changed quickly, the clothes fitting so well it made her stomach knot. But when she stepped back into the hall, Callan stood there, a glass of warm water in his hand. For the shock, he said, "Warmth helps lower cortisol." She blinked. "How do you know about my cortisol?" For the first time, something flickered behind his eyes, something almost like guilt. "Anyone can see you're stressed," he said. Elara didn't believe him, not even close. He gestured toward the living room. "Come sit." She sat at the edge of the couch. He sat beside her, not too close, but with an unmistakable awareness of her exact position. The lights dimmed slightly as they settled, like someone adjusting their environment to match their breathing patterns. "Those men following me," she began. "Who were they? People who shouldn't have been near you." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I'm giving right now." Her jaw tensed. "I don't know you. I don't even know why I'm here." "You're here," Callan said quietly, "because the world outside isn't safe for you tonight." Something invisible tightened inside her chest. "And with you, am I safe with you?" His gaze locked onto hers, steady, unwavering. "Yes, but I don't feel safe. That's because you don't remember." Her breath stopped. Remember what? Callan didn't answer. He stood instead, crossed the room, and tapped his fingers against a panel on the wall. A screen lit up just for him, and lines of text scrolled across in rapid succession. She could only read the last line before it vanished. "Emotional level elevated." "What is that?" she whispered. "A monitoring system," he said, but the words were too swift, too polished. Her heartbeat stumbled. "In E17, she asked again. "Why did the elevator call me that?" He looked at her with a softness so controlled it felt manufactured. "Elara, there are things you don't need to know yet." She stood abruptly. "No, I want answers." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He simply took one step closer, enough to fill her senses with the quiet, overwhelming intensity of him. "You will know," he said, "but not tonight." "Why not?" "Because you're not ready." She felt the floor tilt, not physically, emotionally. The living room lights lowered another shade, matching the rise in her pulse. She didn't know that the room was mirroring her. She didn't know that he saw every spike of her stress on the screen behind her. She didn't know the entire penthouse was designed to read her emotional patterns, but she knew one thing. Something about her life had been arranged long before tonight. Before she could ask more, the wall screen flickered again. A message appeared. "For less than a heartbeat, Laris, Phase 4 emotional bond, monitoring online." Elara inhaled sharply. "Callan, what is Elaris?" He froze. "Just 1 second, but enough." "Not tonight," he said again, voice too gentle, too careful. She stepped back. "I'm not staying in a place I don't understand." "You are staying," Callan replied softly. "It's not safe for you to leave." The door behind her clicked, locked, not loudly, not aggressively, just final. Elara felt the truth settle over her like cold water. She wasn't being protected, she was being kept. Callan took a slow breath, controlling something behind his eyes. "When you wake up tomorrow," he said quietly, "everything will make sense." But something in his voice told her the opposite. Tomorrow wouldn't bring clarity, it would bring the next phase. Phase 4. Elara didn't wait for him to speak. The moment he stepped back into the living room, she rose from the couch, her pulse sharp and uneven beneath her skin. "Tell me the truth," she said. "All of it. Why did you bring me here? Why were you following me? And why do you know things you shouldn't?" Callan's expression didn't change, but the air shifted, tightened. He didn't step toward her. He didn't reach out. He simply watched her, as if every micro-movement of her face mattered. "I wasn't following you," he said quietly. "I was keeping you safe." "That's the same thing." "No," he replied. "Not to me." She shook her head. "Why did you know my name before I told you?" He held her gaze for several slow seconds, and 2, 3 before answering. His voice, even rehearsed but wrapped in something aching. "Because I've known about you for a long time." The words made her breath hitch. "Known about me, I don't—" "You wouldn't remember," he said softly. Her heart stuttered. "Remember what?" Again, he didn't answer. Instead, he crossed to the window, pressing one hand against the glass, as if grounding himself. The city lights cast a faint glow on his profile. Controlled, unreadable, too composed for someone claiming this was all for her safety. "Elara," he said, still facing the window, There are people looking for you, people who don't want you out there alone. How do you know that? Because I've been intercepting them. Her stomach dropped. Intercepting who? He turned slowly. A group that's been monitoring you for months. She swallowed hard. Why me? Something flickered across his eyes, an emotion she couldn't name. Because you're important, he said. That's not an answer either. It's the truth I'm giving you tonight. She stepped back. And what truth are you not giving me? His jaw clenched. He was choosing his words, curating them, the kind that would overwhelm you. You're not protecting me, she whispered. You're controlling me. He closed the distance before she could move away, not touching her, but close enough for her breath to stall. Elara, he murmured. If I wanted control, I would have used it. I'm trying to keep you alive, then let me leave. I can't. Her pulse spiked. Can't or won't? Both. The answer landed like a blow. She staggered back, and he finally looked shaken, as though her reaction was the one thing he hadn't planned for. Elara, he said again, his voice lower, gentler. There are things around you, around your life that you don't understand yet, that you can't understand yet. Then explain. I will. Eventually. Why not now? His eyes softened, not in romance, not in pity, but something more dangerous, something that felt like grief. Because you're not ready for the truth, he said, and not knowing keeps you alive. Elara laughed under her breath, a sharp, bitter sound. That's the worst lie you've told me tonight. Callan inhaled, slowly, controlled, his hands curled at his sides. Sit, he said. Please. You're shaking. I'm not sitting. He exhaled once, then crossed the kitchen to retrieve a glass of warm water. He handed it to her, and she refused. He set it on the table instead, watching her hands tremble even as she tried to hide it. You need something to calm your nerves, he said. Warm water lowers cortisol and you seem to know my cortisol levels better than I do, she snapped. He froze. Too revealing, too specific. Elara's voice dropped. How long have you been watching me? He met her eyes and she felt the floor tilt again because he didn't deny it. I've been aware of you, he said, choosing each word with too much care, for longer than you think. What does that even mean? It means I couldn't leave you unprotected. She shook her head. I'm not in danger. I've lived a normal life. Nothing like this. Nothing like tonight has ever happened to me. That's because I prevented all the things you never knew were coming. Her breath caught. The room suddenly felt too small. Stop, she whispered. Just stop. None of this makes sense unless you're manipulating me. Callan's eyes closed briefly, a flicker of pain crossing his features. When he opened them, something inside them had hardened. You need a legal shield, he said, shifting tone abruptly. Something that allows me to protect you without interference. I don't want your protection. You don't have a choice right now. She stared at him. What kind of shield? A temporary marriage. The silence that followed was suffocating. No, she breathed. It's the fastest way to give me the authority I need. Authority over me. Authority to stop the people hunting you. You're the only one hunting me. He didn't flinch, not at the words, not at her voice breaking. Instead, he stepped closer, speaking softly, almost tenderly. Elara, if you walk out that door, you will not survive long enough to regret it. Her throat tightened. You don't know that. But he did. She saw it in his expression, the chilling certainty, the iron conviction. I know more about the threats around you than you ever will, he said. Please, trust me. The plea in his voice knocked the air from her lungs. It wasn't desperation. It was something heavier, deeper. A tone too practiced to be spontaneous, too calm to be pure emotion. Just until the danger passes, he said. We'll dissolve it after. You're lying. He didn't deny it. He didn't have to, because his silence did it for him. Elara took a step back, but he reached out not to grab her, not to restrain her, but to brush his fingers against her wrist. The touch was light, barely there, but her heartbeat reacted instantly like a wire pulled taut. Her body remembered him even if her mind didn't, and that terrified her. Elara, he whispered, I won't let anything harm you, not them, not the past, not even yourself. She didn't know whether to cry or scream, but when he added, almost inaudibly, this is the only way to keep you alive, she felt something inside her break, and with her voice barely a breath, she whispered, temporary. A single word, a single surrender. His eyes softened, not with relief, but with victory he tried to hide. Temporary, he echoed. But as she turned away, he let his breath slip out soft enough she barely heard it. Phase 4 begins, and on the screen behind him, invisible to her, a message pulsed to life. Elaris, Phase 4 consent acquired, 92% stability. City Hall was far too quiet. Elara expected the harsh buzz of fluorescent lights, crowded lines, distant chatter, the mundane noise of bureaucracy. But when Callan led her through the glass doors, the silence felt curated, like someone had pressed mute on the entire building. The single guard at the entrance barely looked up. The metal detectors didn't beep, even though Callan hadn't removed anything. No one questioned them, no one asked for identification. It was like the building already knew they were coming. "Why is it empty?" she whispered. Callan didn't answer. He guided her down a hallway that smelled faintly of antiseptic and old paper, stopping before a door marked with no number. He pushed it open, motioning for her to enter. The room was too clean, too symmetrical. A single long table, a glass panel instead of a desk, 2 chairs, a built-in screen in the wall. A man in a dark suit stood waiting, posture stiff, hands clasped in front of him as if rehearsed. "Mr. Ward," the man said, a hint of something like apprehension in his voice. Callan gave a clipped nod. We're ready. Not we want to apply or we'd like an appointment. Ready. As if this had been scheduled long before she arrived. Elara swallowed. "Can we slow down and talk about?" Callan took her hand, not gently, not forcefully, but with a deliberate grip that told her he had no intention of letting her step back. "It's only temporary," he murmured. The man in the suit tapped on the glass panel. Lines of text scrolled across, ending in 2 blank signature fields. But when the document stopped, Elara stared. Her name was already typed in, her birth date, her address, which was listed as Callan's penthouse. Why is my information already filled out?" she asked, voice shaking. The man avoided her eyes. "Standard pre-processing. That's not a thing," she shot back. The man didn't answer. Callan squeezed her hand. "It just speeds things up. Speed, efficiency, convenience, all the things she didn't feel right now." The man cleared his throat. "We can proceed whenever you're ready." Elara's gaze drifted to the upper right corner of the document. A small code sat there, E17, C01. She frowned. "What does that mean?" "A filing code," Callan said quickly, but the twitch in his jaw said otherwise. Her breath trembled. "I don't want to do this." He turned toward her, his voice soft and impossibly steady. "You agreed." "That was before I walked into a room that looks like a lab." His lips parted, but before he could reply, the man in the suit added under his breath, hardly audible. "Finalizing Elaris, are we?" Elara froze. "What did you just say?" The man's eyes widened. He straightened abruptly, flustered. "Nothing. A misstatement." Elara stepped back, pulling her hand from Callan's grip. "No. Say it again." Callan's voice cut through the room, low and cold. "Continue the process. Now." The man obeyed instantly. Elara felt her stomach twist. Fear, uncertainty, betrayal, they tangled until she couldn't tell one from the other. Callan picked up a slender silver band from the table. Not a wedding band. A device, smooth, metallic, with an inner ridge she didn't recognize. "Give me your hand," he said. She hesitated. "What is that, a ring?" "It's more than a ring." His eyes softened almost painfully. "It won't hurt." That wasn't an answer, but he lifted her hand anyway. The moment the band slid over her finger, she felt a faint heat, not burning, but undeniable, like something activating beneath her skin. Behind them, the built-in screen flickered to life. She didn't see the words, but Callan did. Phase 4 bond sync, 83%. He exhaled slowly, almost imperceptibly. "Now yours," he said to the officiant. The man handed Callan the second ring. He slipped it on one with practiced precision. "Sign here," the man said. Elara stared at the signature pad. The stylus trembled in her hand. She looked at Callan, hoping just once to see doubt in his eyes. Something that said he understood how insane this was. Instead, she saw certainty. A certainty cold enough to steady him. A certainty warm enough to terrify her. Her name gleamed back at her, typed, waiting, as if she'd already signed long before she arrived. Her breath faltered. Callan leaned close, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're safer with my name on yours." Her stomach twisted again, but her hand moved, slowly, fearfully. She signed. The screen flared white. Consent verified. 99% stability. Callan's fingers closed around hers, a quiet, unmistakable tremor in his breathing. Not relief, not joy, something darker, something fulfilled. The officiant cleared his throat. "Congratulations, Mr. Ward. You finally have her." Elara's blood iced over. Finally, she whispered. The man swallowed. "I meant, of course, congratulations." Callan shot him a warning look, sharp enough to cut. Then he turned to Elara. "Let's go," he said. She followed him numbly, her legs carrying her without her permission. As they stepped outside, the waiting car lit up. The window display illuminated a silent message only Callan could see. Elaris Phase 4 complete. Begin Phase 5 cohabitation. He opened the door for her. She hesitated, staring at the man who now held her legally, emotionally, structurally, in a way she didn't understand. Callan extended his hand. "Elara," he murmured, voice low, velvet, possessive in a way that sent a shiver down her spine. "Come home." She stepped into the car. She didn't see his expression as the door closed, how the control slipped briefly into something raw, reverent, and dangerously triumphant. But she heard the whisper, "Welcome to the next phase." The lights inside Callan's penthouse warmed the moment Elara stepped through the door, as if greeting her. Not reacting, anticipating. The temperature rose a few degrees, the soft hum of the air system adjusting itself with unsettling accuracy. She wrapped her arms around her torso, but no amount of warmth felt comforting. The unease settled deeper. Something about this place felt too familiar for somewhere she had never been. The scent in the air. Vanilla cedarwood, a faint sweetness, was the same combination she used to smell in the old youth center she visited as a child. The melody playing softly in the background was a track she hadn't heard since she was 16. And the mug on the counter, the exact shade of blue she used to choose every morning before school. Her breath tightened. None of this was coincidence. Callan walked past her without a word, moving toward a console embedded in the wall. He tapped 3 commands, the screen flashing symbols she didn't understand before going dark again. Elara stepped closer to the living room. "Why does this place feel like I've been here before?" Callan didn't answer immediately. He adjusted the dimmer instead, lowering the light until the room felt gentler, too gentler. "Elara," he said finally, "I wanted you to feel comfortable tonight." "This isn't comfort," she whispered. "This is curated." He stiffened just slightly, enough for her to notice. She moved toward the coffee table. On it sat a plate of pastries, her favorite ones, the kind she used to buy from the bakery near the foster home. She hadn't tasted them in years. She picked one up with trembling fingers. "How did you know these?" she asked. Callan's voice was soft. "I pay attention." To what she demanded, to everything I've done since I was a child. He didn't flinch, but the set of his jaw betrayed him. Elara moved to the kitchen. A folder sat half open on the island pages, peeking through. She reached for it. Callan was at her side in an instant, shutting it with a firm but controlled motion. "Don't," he said. The sternness in his voice rattled her. "Why not? What's in there?" "Nothing you need to see. That's what you said about everything." He took a slow breath, shoulders rising and falling as if trying to steady himself. "You've just been through a lot. You need to rest. Stop telling me what I need." She backed away from him, her eyes scanning the room for anything out of place, and she found it. Or rather, everything was out of place. Too perfect. The blanket draped over the couch was folded in the exact style she used to fold hers 10 years ago. The bookshelf held titles she hadn't read since childhood. Even the height of the shelves, slightly higher than average, matched the setup she had at her old school library because she liked feeling small beneath them. Nothing about this home was random. It was built around her. Her stomach turned. This is all for me." Callan's silence was the answer. She felt the air leave her lungs. "Why? How do you know this much about me?" He stepped toward her, not aggressively, but purposefully. "Because it keeps you stable." "Stable," she echoed. "What am I, a patient? A subject?" His eyes flickered, and that was enough. Heart pounding, Elara spun away from him and marched toward the hallway. The first door was a study empty except for a desk and several locked drawers. The second was a guest room. The third, a soft chime sounded as she neared it. Biometric recognition activated. The door slid open on its own. Elara froze. Inside was a small, sterile chamber lit by a single overhead light. The walls were clear glass with screens embedded behind them. On a central table lay stacks of documents neatly sorted into categories. She stepped inside. Her name appeared everywhere, on folders, on reports, on diagrams that mapped reactions, expressions, heart rate spikes. She grabbed one of the papers, her breath quickening as she scanned it. Behavioral Pathway E17 Long-Term Model. Her knees nearly gave out. Callan appeared behind her, voice tight. Elara, please, stop. But she kept reading. Milestone 1 Scholarship Acquisition Complete. Milestone 2 Relocation to Building 14A Complete. Milestone 3 Control to Fear Stimulus Complete. Milestones 4 Induced Isolation Pattern Complete. Milestone 5 Bond Trigger Event Successful. Her vision blurred. She turned, holding the paper like it was burning her. These are my life events. Callan swallowed. Yes, you planned them, no, he said gently. I monitored them. She shook her head. No, you controlled them? Elara, why are you doing this to me? She whispered. His expression cracked just enough to show the rawness beneath. To keep you alive. She staggered back, breath shuddering. What is E17? He didn't speak. The silence was worse than any answer. Another folder caught her eye, one labeled Behavior Analysts, Team Elaris. 12 names, psychologists, observers, technicians, and someone she recognized, her therapist. Her legs trembled violently. My doctor was part of this. Callan's voice softened dangerously. Everything was to protect you. Protect me from what? He stepped closer, cautiously. From them. From who, she demanded. Callan didn't blink. The ones who want to use you. His words scraped her nerves raw. Elara, he whispered, every decision I made, every detail in this house, every step of your path, it wasn't control. She stared at him numb. Then what was it? It was safety. The air in the room thickened until she felt she couldn't breathe. She hit his chest with her palm, anger bursting through the fear. You don't get to decide my life. He caught her wrist, not tightly but firmly enough to stop her from hurting herself more than him. His voice broke for the first time. If I didn't decide, you wouldn't have a life. Her chest rose and fell in sharp, uneven breaths. Let me go. His fingers loosened instantly. He took a slow step back. Elara, he said quietly, you don't understand how much danger you're in. Not from me, from them. She looked into his eyes and saw it, something almost like desperation twisted behind the control. But desperation for what? Her safety, her survival, or her... A soft beep sounded from the console on the wall. A new message blinked. Subject, E17, bond formation level 47%. Callan's chest rose as he inhaled deeply, a controlled breath but unsteady at the edges. She backed away from him, from the screens, from the files that rewrote her entire existence. He didn't follow. He simply whispered, almost too soft to hear. This is the moment I feared most. Her voice trembled. What moment? The moment you start remembering. The lights hummed above them, flickering once, like an endpoint reached, like a checkpoint passed. Elara stared at the man she had married only hours ago, and for the first time she wondered if the danger outside was nothing compared to the danger standing right in front of her. The staircase to the lower level groaned under her feet, each echo bouncing off the concrete walls like a warning she refused to hear. Elara pressed her palm to the cold metal railing, breath uneven, heart hammering in an erratic rhythm that made every step feel like a free fall. Behind her, the door she had slipped through slid shut with a soft, irreversible click. A soft blue glow flickered ahead. She followed it. The hallway widened into a room that looked nothing like anything above ground. No luxury, no warmth, just sterile white tiles, glass walls, and the faint hum of machines that felt like they were breathing. As she stepped in motion, sensors activated. Lights brightened one section at a time, revealing desks, small chairs, a wall lined with emotion cards, happy, sad, terrified, neutral, faded from years of handling, and on a large screen across the room a video looped quietly. A girl, thin, pale as maybe 10 or 11, sat at one of the desks. A therapist knelt beside her, sliding a card across the table. The girl pushed the card away. Her face was blank, expressionless, hollow. Elara's lungs froze. The girl turned her head in the video and the room spun. It was her, a younger her. "No," Elara whispered. "No, that's not possible. I don't remember this." The clip continued. More emotion cards, more unresponsive stares, more prompts, more attempts to coax a reaction out of a child who didn't seem capable of feeling anything at all. Elara stumbled forward. A folder sat open on the table beneath the screen. She reached for it with trembling hands. Emotion Reconstruction Program E17 candidate, age 11. Initial diagnosis, post-traumatic affective collapse. Objective, rebuild emotional faculty through long-term conditioning. Her head swayed, the words blurred. She forced herself to read them again. Emotion reconstruction, rebuild, conditioning. She dropped the folder, chest tightening as she backed away straight into the next room as its lights clicked on one. More screens, more videos. In this one, she saw herself slightly older sitting in a chair as someone entered the room. A young man, dark hair, sharp eyes, tall, Callan, years younger but unmistakably him. The doctor's voice played from the speakers. "Elara, tell us how this makes you feel." "Child." Elara stared blankly. The therapist dimmed the lights. Callan stepped closer, kneeling so he was eye level with her. He held out his hand. Something unexplainable happened next. The girl didn't speak, didn't smile, didn't move, but her trembling fingers reached for him. Only him. The heart rate chart behind them jumped sharply. Elara covered her mouth, tears burning behind her eyes. "No." The notes on the screen updated with clinical precision. Primary response detected. Subject stabilizes in proximity to Model X. Unexpected positive reaction. Continue exposure. Elara's mind fractured at the edges. Her past wasn't what she remembered. Her memories weren't complete. And Callan had been there in rooms she didn't even remember existing. She forced herself into another chamber. Rows of binders lined the walls. Behavior logs, E17, emotional projection models, E17 progress reports, E17 stability charts, E17 she opened one. The first page showed a chart mapping her stress levels from age 11 onward. Every spike, every dip annotated. Every major life event neatly checked off according to a predetermined schedule. Scholarship granted. Phase 1 success. Living independence established. Phase 2 completed fear stimulus. Introducing. Phase 3 complete bond. Trigger event. Phase 4 achieved. Her hands shook so violently she could barely keep the pages still. She was reading a script. Her life had been a script. Her breath came too fast, too shallow, too loud. She staggered into the next room, the one with the red restricted sign, and the light inside blinked awake as she entered. A hospital cot sat in the middle. A child-sized pillow, folded hospital gowns. Monitors lined the walls, still plugged in. On a table nearby, another file. She picked it up. Patient Elara Hale, age 11. Emergency intake notes. Orphaned in residential fire. Immediate psychological collapse. Recommendation: emotional faculty unlikely to recover without intervention. Guardian assigned Callan Ward. Age 22. Guardian notes. Request approval for entry into Elara's protocol. Will assume full responsibility. Her knees buckled. He had been her guardian. He hadn't found her as an adult. He had found her as a broken child. The room spun until she thought she would faint. A soft footstep sounded behind her. Elara. She stiffened, breath trapped in her throat. Callan stood in the doorway, rain still clinging to his hair, and coat eyes shadowed with something between sorrow and inevitability. She stumbled backward. Don't come near me." He didn't move from the threshold. He didn't reach for her. He just stood there, breathing quietly like he'd rehearsed this moment and hated it. "You weren't supposed to see this," he said softly. Her chest cracked open. "This is my life." His voice thinned barely above a whisper. "This was your survival. You controlled everything," she choked out. "Everything I've ever felt, Everything I thought was mine was programmed. His jaw shook. It was the first time she'd ever seen him shake. "Elara," he murmured, "you didn't feel anything at all before I came into your life." A tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it. "I don't know what's real anymore." He swallowed hard. "Then let me help you understand." "No," she breathed. "You don't get to do that. Not anymore." He stepped inside the doorway. Only one step. It was enough to freeze the air between them. "Elara," he said, voice breaking, "I didn't do this to control you. I did it because if I hadn't, you wouldn't be here." She stared at him through tears, heart splitting. "Why me?" she whispered. His answer was quiet. "Because you were the first person my touch didn't scare." The lights flickered once, like breathing, like remembering, like awakening. But Elara didn't move. She didn't forgive. She didn't understand. She only stared at the man who had shaped her entire life. And for the first time, she wasn't sure whether she wanted to run from him or run to him. Elara backed away from him until her spine hit the cold glass wall. The chill against her skin snapped through the fog of fear and disbelief swirling inside her. Callan stopped several feet away, hands at his sides, palms open as if he were afraid one wrong movement might shatter her completely. "You knew me," she said, voice breaking before I even understood myself. His throat tightened. "Yes, you watched me." Her voice rose. "You monitored me. You shaped my entire life without ever telling me." He inhaled like the confession itself hurt. "I shaped the parts that would have destroyed you." Elara shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You built this place, these rooms, these files, my life, all of it, without my consent. I saved you," he whispered. "Stop saying that." Her voice fractured. "Just answer me. Why was I here? Why did you choose me for this program?" He closed his eyes for a brief, tortured second. When he opened them, the shield he always carried had cracked. "Because you were dying." Emotionally, she snapped. "No," he said softly. "Literally." Her breath stalled. "When they found you after the fire," he continued, "your mind shut down. You didn't speak. You didn't react. You didn't eat unless someone physically guided your hand. You weren't terrified, you were empty. And emptiness is fatal in a child. It was like watching a flame burn itself out." Her fingers curled helplessly against the glass. "I couldn't let that happen," he said. "Why?" she whispered. "Why me? You didn't know me." A long silence settled. Then he answered with a truth that sounded like it had been buried for years. "I did." Elara's breath trembled. "What does that mean, I was there the night of the fire?" He said, each word slow and steady. "I wasn't supposed to be, but I was. I pulled you out. You grabbed my hand the moment I reached you." His voice faltered. "You held on like it was the first choice you made in hours." Her eyes widened, the memory trying to surface heat smoke, a hand gripping hers, a voice telling her, "I've got you," a sensation of safety she hadn't felt since. Callan's voice gentled to a painful softness. "You didn't respond to anyone else. Not doctors, not police. But when I touched you, something changed. Your heartbeat steadied. You looked at me like you finally recognized something in the world." Elara clutched the edge of the table as her knees threatened to give out. "That was the first sign your mind wasn't completely gone," he said. "And they told me you wouldn't make it without a long-term rebuilding program, but they wouldn't approve it. No one wanted to take responsibility." "And you did," she whispered. "Yes," Callan said quietly. "I became your guardian so I could save you." Elaris wasn't created to control you. It was created because you needed more than therapy or medication. You needed a rebuilt emotional framework. Her vision blurred again. "You built my emotions. I helped restore what was lost. You were a child with no sense of safety left. So yes, I designed an environment that would give it back to you." "But why you?" she cried. "Why were you the one in my childhood sessions? Why did they use your presence as part of the conditioning?" His jaw tightened. He looked down for a moment as if ashamed to say it. "Because you only reacted to me." Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Alive. "You were the first person I didn't scare," he said. "And the first person who ever made me feel like I mattered in a way that wasn't tied to power or money or reputation. You were the first real thing in my life." Elara felt something twist deep in her chest. something she didn't want to name. She forced the feeling down. "You should have told me," she whispered. "I couldn't." His voice cracked. "If you learned what Elaris was before your emotional system was stable, everything we rebuilt could collapse. You could relapse. Or worse. You made that decision for me." "Yes." His honesty was devastating. "Because you weren't ready to make it yourself." Elara's hand slid up to her face, trembling. "What about now? Do you think I'm ready now?" Callan's silence was answer enough. He hadn't wanted her to find any of this yet. A distant alarm suddenly blared. Red lights flashed along the ceiling, bathing the room in emergency glow. Elara flinched. "What is that?" Callan's expression hardened. He moved to the nearby console, tapping commands so fast the screen barely kept up. "Someone breached the external system," he said. "They hacked through one of the Elaris access points." Her chest tightened. "Who the people I've been keeping you hidden from?" He replied, voice low and dangerous. "The ones who want you for what you are not who you are." Ice slid through her veins. "What I am." "You're the only successful result of Elaris," he said without looking at her. "They will do anything to recreate that, even if it destroys you." The alarm intensified. Metal shutters slammed over the hallway entrances. "Callan," she whispered, panic rising. "What's happening?" "They found you." He turned to her, no mask, no calm, nothing except the raw fear of a man who had already almost lost her once. He reached for her, stopping inches from her arm. Not touching, just close enough to feel. "Elara," he said, voice breaking with both resolve and regret. "I will not let them take you." Her heart twisted painfully. "You're the danger here." He shook his head slowly. "Not compared to them." Another alarm burst overhead, louder, sharper. "Elara," he said, voice steadying. "You have to trust me, just this once. Not because of Elaris, but because I'm the only one who knows how to keep you alive." Her breath trembled. The shutters rumbled again, footsteps pounding in the distance. "They're here," Callan said quietly. He looked at her. Not like a subject, not like a project, but like a person he was terrified to lose. "Run with me," he whispered. And for the first time since she discovered the truth, Elara didn't know whether the person standing in front of her was the danger or her only chance to survive what was coming next. The alarm's red glow pulsed across the corridor as Callan pulled Elara into a narrow passageway concealed behind a sliding panel. The metal shutters slammed down behind them with a violent clang, sealing off the room they had just fled. Elara's breath came fast and uneven, fogging the chilled air as they ran. The hum of machinery deep in the walls vibrated through her bones. "Callan, slow down, what is happening?" she gasped. "The breach wasn't random," he said, voice clipped, focused. "They knew where to find you, which means they know what you are." "What I am," she repeated. "Say it, say what I am." But he didn't. He only tightened his grip on her wrist and pulled her deeper into the underground facility's spine. Ahead, a steel door slid open automatically. Red emergency lights strobed across the floor, painting everything in sharp, panicked color. The echo of boots, multiple sets, clattered against concrete in the distance. "Callan, someone is coming," Elara whispered. His jaw clenched. Not someone. A team. They crossed into a maintenance control chamber and Callan slammed the door shut. He moved fast, too fast, locking terminals, flipping switches, triggering systems she didn't understand. Panels sparked as he rerouted power. Surveillance screens lit up, showing black-clad intruders breaching the upper levels of the building. "Who are they?" Elara asked, dread tightening her throat. He paused only for a heartbeat. "A faction that believes Elara should never have existed. That program your program, no," he cut in. "Theirs. The government's. They funded the very first iteration years ago before shutting it down and ordering everything destroyed. And you kept it going," she whispered. "I saved what was needed to save you." A crash boomed against the sealed door. Elara jerked back, hitting a panel that sparked to life behind her. Voice identified. Subject E17, instability level high. Elara stumbled away from the screen like it had struck her. "They're tracking me, even down here. That's why we have to move." Callan grabbed her hand again, but the look she gave him shattered. Terrified, furious, made him freeze. "I don't know if I'm safer with you or with them," she whispered. His expression broke, if only for a second. You are safer with me, always with me. Another explosion rocked the walls around them. Dust fell from the ceiling in trembling clouds. We need to go, he said. Now. They sprinted down another hallway as the automated lights flickered awake with their movement. The air grew colder. The facility hummed with warning signals, each one piercing Elara's ears like a needle. A sharp beep echoed from the speaker overhead. Unauthorized access in Sector 5, a synthetic voice announced. Objective priority, Elaris subject E-17. Elara's blood turned to ice. They're hunting me specifically. Yes, Callan said without looking back. Because you are the only confirmed successful case. She faltered mid-step. Successful case. He turned around, caught her shoulders. Elara, listen to me. No, she snapped, pulling away. Not until you answer me. What does successful mean? What did they do to the others? Callan hesitated, and that hesitation told her everything. She stumbled back, horrified. They didn't survive. Before he could speak, gunfire rattled far behind them. The sound pierced the sterile corridors, sharp and metallic. Callan's voice dropped urgent. Move! He led her into a narrow auxiliary passage. Pipes ran along the ceiling, leaking steam. The echo of boots, the intruders, reverberated closer with every second. A blast shook the floor. Elara nearly fell, but Callan grabbed her waist and steadied her. Right here, he ordered, lifting her into a crouch as debris rained down and the sound of metal tearing filled the air. Through a grated panel in the wall, she glimpsed shadows, armed men in tactical gear sweeping through the adjoining hall. One of them shouted, "The subject is unstable. New directive eliminate." Elara's heart stopped. Callan stiffened beside her. His hand slid to the back of her neck, grounding her like he had done when she was small. Don't listen, he whispered. They don't get to decide anything about you. Her breath shook violently. Callan, they're going to kill me. I won't let them. She believed him, hated herself for believing him, but she believed him. He guided her through the grate into a dark maintenance chamber lit by flickering bulbs. Panels sparked. Wires hung in loose tangles. The air smelled like metal and ozone. We're close, Callan said. There's an old tunnel ahead. Elara's legs buckled. Pain shot through her skull, sharp and blinding. She dropped to her knees. Elara Callan knelt with her hands cupping her face. Stay with me. Images crashed through her mind. Memories she didn't know she had bleeding into each other. A fire. A hand pulling her from smoke. A young Callan kneeling beside her as doctors struggled to reach her. Her small fingers reaching for him. His voice saying, I'm here. I'm right here. Her breathing spiraled out of control. Elara, look at me, Callan said. His voice trembled. Don't crash. Please don't crash. Boots thundered outside the chamber. The door began to melt under thermal equipment. Callan's hands were shaking as he pulled her close. If something happens to you, if they take you, everything I did was for nothing. Her eyes fluttered. Tears streaked her cheeks. Callan, I don't want to die. He pressed his forehead to hers, voice strained with emotion he could no longer hide. Then stay with me. Trust me. The metal door groaned under the heat. Elara reached up and gripped his jacket, her voice a broken whisper. Don't leave me. It wasn't programming. It wasn't conditioning. It was the raw, terrified truth of someone who didn't want to die alone. Callan gathered her in his arms, lifting her as the door behind them burst inward with a deafening crash. Flashlights cut through the chamber. Ward, a voice roared. You can't save her. Callan turned away from the light, clutching her to his chest, and sprinted into the darkness of the emergency tunnel. I already saved her once, he growled under his breath, and I'll do it again. Behind them, bullets tore into steel. Ahead, darkness swallowed them whole. And Elara, barely conscious, tightened her grip on him, choosing him, if only because he was the one still fighting to keep her alive. Callan staggered through the tunnel, his breath coming ragged and uneven as he held Elara tightly against his chest. The emergency lights flickered in long intervals, leaving them swallowed by darkness every few seconds. Her head had rested against his shoulder, too, still too quiet. He could feel her pulse, thin and fluttering, beneath his fingertips. Stay with me, he murmured, voice cracking. Elara, please, stay with me. Her eyelids trembled. A faint sound escaped her, barely a breath. Callan, don't Let go. I won't. He swore, tightening his hold. Never. Behind them, the tunnel roared with distant shouts and the metallic ring of boots striking steel. They were losing time. Callan pushed forward, his steps uneven as blood seeped through his shirt from the wound he tried to ignore. A final door appeared at the end of the tunnel, rusted heavy, barely hanging on its hinges. He kicked it open. Cold night air washed over them as they emerged into an abandoned service alley behind the city's industrial district. Rain hammered down, soaking them instantly. Callan staggered to his knees. The pain he'd suppressed finally crashed through him. Elara slipped from his arms, landing softly on the wet pavement. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "Callan, you're bleeding," she whispered. He let out a shaky exhale. "Doesn't matter. It does." Her trembling hand reached for his. "You can't save me if you die doing it." He closed his eyes. Her words, raw, frightened pleading, cut deeper than any injury. A set of headlights swept across the alley. Callan tensed, shielding Elara with his body. But it wasn't the enemy. A sleek black SUV skidded to a stop. A man in dark clothing leaped out, Callan's personal security contact, someone Elara had never met. "Sir, get in," the man shouted. "We have backup 2 blocks out." Callan pulled Elara into his arms again. She clutched his jacket weakly, fingers slipping from rain and exhaustion. "Don't leave me," she whispered, voice shaking. "Not for anything," he breathed. They climbed into the back seat. The SUV peeled away, tires screeching. Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance. Rain hammered the windows like 1,000 frantic fists. Elara leaned into Callan, her head against his chest. His heartbeat was uneven, but strong, too strong to belong to a man who had lost so much blood. "Callan," she murmured, barely audible. "Why did you do all of this? Why me?" He brushed a strand of wet hair from her forehead, his touch gentle in a way that felt almost reverent. "Because you were the first person who ever looked at me like I wasn't dangerous." "You were a stranger," she whispered. "You were a child," he answered softly. "And you trusted me. Without fear, without hesitation. You saved me long before I saved you." Her breath caught. Something deep inside her, something older than memory, stirred. "You should have told me everything," she said, a tear escaping. "I know." His voice fractured. "But I was afraid that if you knew the truth, you'd never choose me for yourself." She looked up at him. For the first time since the world shattered beneath her feet, she saw him not the guardian, not the architect of her life, not the man who built the program around her, but the man who had carried her bleeding through fire and darkness twice, without once thinking of saving himself first. "Callan," she whispered, "I chose you." His breath caught. "When he closed her eyes. When I asked you not to leave me back there." The SUV hit a bump, but neither of them moved. Callan swallowed hard, tightening his arms around her. "Elara!" His voice was barely a sound. "I don't deserve that." She rested her forehead against his chest, exhausted. "Maybe not, but you have it." The SUV's doors opened as they reached a secure medical outpost. Medics rushed forward, but Elara lifted a weak hand, refusing to let Callan out of her grasp. "Help him first," she said. Callan shook his head violently. "No. Her. She goes first. Now." But the medics approached together, guiding them both inside. The lights were warm, soft, nothing like the cold sterility of the underground facility. Elara lay back on a stretcher as Callan leaned heavily beside her, refusing to be moved more than an arm's length away. As the medical team worked, she studied him, his pale skin, the blood on his clothes, the pain he tried to hide. "You saved my life," she whispered. He met her gaze, something fierce breaking inside him. "I'll spend every day proving I didn't ruin it." She reached for his hand. He clasped it tightly, like he'd been waiting a lifetime for her to do exactly that. "Then we start over," she said softly. He blinked, breath trembling. "Start over, no Elaris, no programming, no secrets." She gave a faint, tired smile. "Just us." A single tear slipped down his cheek. "Just us," he echoed. Outside, dawn began to break. Inside, for the first time since her life was stolen from her, Elara felt something genuine settle in her chest, a feeling not assigned, not directed, not designed, something real, hope. She squeezed his hand. "Callan, yes, stay." I will, as long as you want me. She didn't hesitate. Then stay forever. His breath shuddered, and he pressed his forehead to her hand quietly, reverently, like a vow. When the lights dimmed to rest mode, she whispered into the soft hum of the room. Tell me what you would choose if you were me. Callan lifted his head, meeting her eyes. I'd choose the person who fought for me, he said. Every time. Her smile was small, fragile, real. Then maybe I chose right. If you reach this moment with Elara and Callan, tell me, who would